From Social Prosperity Partners, this is Community Catalysts. Welcome to Community Catalysts, the podcast that examines the qualities of community leadership and the many paths and forms it can take. I'm your host, Matt Lehrman. Today, we journey to Cave City, a rural town in north-central Arkansas, population 1,900. Founded around 1890 and formally chartered in 1907, Cave City has become renowned for its annual Watermelon Festival held each July, drawing thousands of people from across the country to celebrate, and I'm quoting here, the world's sweetest watermelons. Our guest today is the mayor of Cave City, Jonas Anderson, who I met last month in Little Rock at the annual conference of the Arkansas Municipal League, where I had the honor of delivering the opening keynote, and he completed his term as president of the League's board of directors. Mayor Anderson, welcome to Community Catalysts.
Thank you, Matt. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you. So, Mayor, I want you to give us a brief audio tour of Cave City. And I want you just to imagine that I've looked at my Google Maps to be able to figure this out. Imagine we've just driven north and east of Little Rock on the US 67 and then up the US 167. We've gone about 110 miles. We pull into town and drive up to the new Cave City City Hall on Main Street, and you're standing outside waiting for us, and we get out of the car, we stand up, we stretch. You're greeting us. Describe for us what we're looking at.
Yeah, so when you pulled up here to the City Hall, this is kind of a new feature for us. Like you said, it is on Main Street, and it was a building that was originally built in 1950 as the Bank of Cave City. And so we've totally renovated it and turned it into our new City Hall. So we welcome you into that, and we just moved into it a little bit ago. You're right on Main Street. There's several really neat businesses here, a new restaurant that just opened up that's really become popular already, and just a nice, quiet, small town atmosphere.
What's the restaurant, and specifically, what are we ordering when we go there for lunch?
The restaurant is Bailey's Family Restaurant, and, honestly, I haven't had a thing yet that's not been exceptional. It's kind of home cooking, chicken fried steak and ribeye and ribs and burgers and salads and you name it. So anything on the menu, I don't think you'll go wrong.
So we're not going to go hungry?
No, absolutely not.
So I understand you are a lifelong resident of Cave City, but I think that doesn't tell the whole story. Your family history goes way back, yes?
Technically, my family's been in this area of Sharp County since the 1860s, more just a little bit north of here in a little place called Evening Shade. My main connection to Cave City, though, my grandparents graduated from the high school here. My mother and father and other family members graduated from here. My mom spent 34 years teaching school here. Both sides of my grandparents had businesses here for, 20, 30, 40 years. One was a general mercantile grocery business from the 50s to the 70s. The other was a lifelong mechanic that, even today, 40, 50, 60 years later, people still come up and find out, kind of that connection. My parents or grandparents shopped with your grandparents in their mercantile store in the 50s, or, we always took our vehicles to your grandpa's business. That was the only place that, in town I wanted to go. I mean, it's just a lot of neat history there. So, and I'm a history buff anyway. I'm a history grad, so that gets me in all my fields. And I get to hear stories like that.
Is this pretty common in Cave City that there are families here who go back so many generations? I understand. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and when we meet people, the first thing that you say is, "Where are you from?" Because everyone seems to be from somewhere else. That doesn't sound like it's your experience.
I think that's generally what you find in a lot of small rural communities, and yes, Cave City, there are still a lot of people here, with those kind of family ties back, generations back. For instance, you mentioned the cave. At one point, and on some old maps, it's called Horns Cave, Horn. And that was a family name of some property owners way, way back. And there are still, some people that are descended from those that are still here. So, yeah, I think that's pretty common in Cave City and also other communities like ours.
So I just have to ask, it's a small town. It's a town where you've got family roots that go back a whole long way. I understand you joined the city council in 2010. You were sworn into office as mayor in 2017. But can I just ask, was the trajectory for public service for you, was that like ordained in the womb and, it was just a matter of time before you would be on the council and mayor, or was it really a conscious choice to have to do that?
Yeah, no, not at all. I feel like, are you asking, am I kind of like the Kennedy family or the Bushes or something, of Cape City, like where you just
Good way
follow the
to say it.
path? Yeah, but no, I mean, actually, not at all. Now, one interesting tidbit, though, is that my dad actually worked on the water and sewer department in the late 70s and then a little bit into the early 80s before I was born, and kind of helped run that for a number of years. And so, but other than that, that's the only connection as far as city government, direct connection that I had. So, like I said, 2010, I ended up on the city council in a way, almost by accident. And then from there, the trajectory just started, I've just fallen in love with it.
What do you mean almost by accident? What got you started on the route to public service?
Well, that was in about 2009 or something. My grandmother had a little bit of an issue, and so she was kind of trying to figure out what to do. And so we decided, well, heck, let's go to a city council meeting, and see if there's something, like if the city's involved in this or not involved in this. We just didn't know. And frankly, I had never been to a city council meeting in my life, Cave City or otherwise. And so we went to that city council meeting, and presented our dilemma or whatever, and talked to some council members. And I knew some people that were on the city council, but again, I didn't really know much else other than they're on the city council and this is where the city is run. And other than that, it was all new to me. So I went to that city council meeting. Like I said, presented our issue there, dealt with that. And then it wasn't too much after that, a friend of mine or acquaintance that at the time that was on the council had to give up his seat. He was moving out of town. They had a chance to go back to their family farm just south of here. And so he and the mayor at the time asked me if I would be interested in finishing what was left of his 2-year term. If they wanted, they had to appoint someone to finish it. And so I thought, well, sure, why not? I'll do it and finish it out for a year and a half and go on about my business.
Is there some lesson that you learned in that very first experience with council that is still relevant to you even to this day?
Well, I mean, in general, number one, the city council is the best, well, city government in general, in my opinion, is the best government. It's the one that's closest to the people. It's the one that can solve problems for people the best, I mean, these are people that it sounds cliche, but you see them in the grocery store, you sit next to them in church, you're at the kids' ball games with them. I mean, you're always talking to these people. And then the other one is that no matter how good a council may be, or a city may be, or an organization may be, there's always room for improvement, right? There was nothing really going wrong in Cave City at the time per se, but there was some things that maybe we could be paying a little bit more attention to, and we have been since then. And we've, like I said, been on a really good path with this subject and a lot of others ever since then.
Mayor, a question that I wanted to ask you about was I was doing some research, not just about Cave City, but also Arkansas in general. And I was interested to see that the poverty rate for the whole state of Arkansas is 17.2%, according to the University of Central Arkansas Citizens Guide. The poverty rate in Cave City is 26%. And I'm wondering specifically, what's the implication of that for governance, and where does that factor into your agenda for what needs to be done?
Yeah, well, Sharp County, where we're at, just in general, in our part of the state, I mean, there's no doubt we're in a more rural, a little bit more economically depressed part of the state. I mean, that's just the way it is, and that does definitely factor into things I think about. In fact, I was just having a conversation with someone yesterday. We're now that we've got our new city hall building, new police department building, our next focus is looking at our current city swimming pool and the community center building that we just moved out of. It's in pretty bad shape and it needs to be torn down. But anyway, that conversation always leads to, well, what about the pool? And so we're trying to work out a way to time that to where we don't have to go a pool season without a public pool. And that ties into exactly what you're saying, because I literally yesterday made the statement of we cannot go a season without a swimming pool because there's too many kids in this town that need it, that rely on it. And that is one thing that I do think about a whole lot as far as like parks and quality of life and stuff like that. So that drives a lot of what I do. We're working on right now several different projects in that realm of, how can we do better with our park? How can we, again, like I said, avoid shutting down the pool for an entire year where kids just don't have it? Because it's busy and it's used, and there's a lot of kids. I mean, that's their summer. Unfortunately, their families can't afford to take multi-thousand-dollar vacations and things like that. But man, that city pool, that gives them a place to come and be with their friends and be part of the community. And to me, like, so much good just community building takes place at that city pool every day. So that in a nutshell, that's how that poverty rate maybe, kind of plays into my thinking. Is we've got a lot of families and a lot of kids that just doing the best they can do, and anything we can do to help make their days in Cave City more enjoyable, that's what I want to do.
It's interesting because what I'm hearing in what you're saying, and maybe this is no different from any other city, is that as mayor, you have to be thinking both about the opportunities for the city, but also the responsibilities for the city. But when you've got fully 26% of your population below the poverty line, those responsibilities have to weigh pretty large. And what I think I'm hearing you say is you think about that in terms of how do we make sure that people are getting services that they value from the city, and that those services also help create a sense of belonging in the city as well. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got people from all walks of life here, and so, like I said, the city pool, it knows no age, it knows no race, it knows no economic differences. Everybody comes to the city pool and enjoys it. Period. And so that's what I mean when I say, a lot of community building takes place at the city pool. I mean, you got, grandparents bringing grandkids. You've got parents bringing kids. You've got, teenagers showing up on their own with their friends. You've got, and, just from all walks of life. It's really neat. And I try to do this every once in a while. Just go down to the city pool, hang out for a little bit. Sometimes I'll just sit at a table under one of the umbrellas, even by myself, and just kind of observe and people watch and listen to some of the conversations that happen, watch the kids, interacting with each other. And that will make you understand that, like I said, we can't go a season without that pool, because it's just too valuable. So that is what I think about. Not only are we giving, obviously, like clean, safe drinking water and sewer services and your bare necessities, but also we want to provide, great parks and outdoor places for people to go and enjoy. We can't solve every problem. I mean, no city can solve every problem for every single person. I don't think we need to try, but we can do a lot of good things there, between basic services and things that people just enjoy for the fun of it.
Mayor, as you know, the purpose of this podcast is to ask a variety of community leaders to open up about the good, the bad, and the ugly of their experiences in community leadership. So I want to ask you to do that. I understand that you spearheaded a major project of renovating historic buildings, and that includes the city hall and the police station. You mentioned the city hall earlier. Can you walk us through good, bad, and ugly things that you've learned or observed in the course of that project? What was good? What worked well? What's an example of something that people should know, that if they knew this, that it could make their lives easier in their own communities?
One of the things that I've learned is people are usually ready for change, especially, again, kind of maybe it's the post-COVID world. I don't know. I just find that people are ready for something exciting. They're ready for something new, something energizing. And so, like, this project, this is the first time that the city had changed the location of its, city hall, government, however you want to word it, since 1972. And so we had been in the current, we've been in now the former city hall building since 1972. So people were obviously very used to how to go to city hall, how to get, services and all that kind of stuff. So when we announced, that we were gonna change it up, obviously, I mean, I'm sure there were some people, kind of thinking, number one, how much is this going to cost, or is this really necessary, or something like that. But yeah, the good of that project that came out of it is the excitement that people, and honestly, the sense of community pride. I've had a lot of people now as they come into the building, they're super proud of it.
So that means there was no bad whatsoever. There were no obstacles you had to overcome. It was just smooth sailing the whole way.
No, no, I wish it was. I wish it was that way. I mean, a lot of the quote unquote bad. I mean, it's just things that I learned. There were some things, materially, like for instance, I had never been through a process of where we had to hire an architect and we had to do this, according to the law. There's certain ways, obviously, that cities have to do things. It's not like a private business where you can just, call up your favorite contractor and go with it. So we had to take bids, on that. There was a little bit of back and forth and probably disappointment there, to be honest with you. We had several contractors that bid on it, and some people their favorite contractor unfortunately didn't get the winning bid, and maybe somebody else's favorite one did. So there was a little bit of stuff like that.
You said that there was some negativity. Tell me what technique you used. What is your skill to overcome negativity? And I imagine in a small town, this is not like people are writing editorials in the paper or talking about this on social media. This is like in your face, I imagine. This is people that who were saying, I think this is a bad idea. I don't see the value in this.
Luckily, I mean, honestly, all this that we're talking about, though, was a very small minority. And it was a mix of, I think, just, the way things had always been. Some people flat out admitted, I just do not like change. Don't like change. Maybe this is a good idea, but I just don't like it. Well, that's okay. But really, I mean, there's no strategy to me that some secret sauce that I have to deal with that. I mean, I just try to be open and honest and tell people, like, look, I'm just here for the good of the city. Like, there's no agenda here. There's no other reason that I'm doing this other than we have looked at lots of options. We know where we are. We know where we want to go, and this is what we think is best. It's up to the people of the city, I guess, to decide at least every 4 years if they agree with that or not. But so far, it's worked out really well.
Well, so you didn't say the word, but what's implied in what you said is that there's some degree of trust that goes along with it. And that's not just that the citizens trust you to make decisions, but that you trust the people of your community to engage in a process, to pay attention and to make decisions and to live with the implications of those decisions.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the trust issue. I feel like we have a high level of trust here for sure. Everything we've done, at least since I've been mayor and previous administrations too, I feel like there's usually been a pretty good level of trust there. One thing I did different though when I got on the city council is I started posting things on social media. So before, like, there was no city website, there was no real outlet of any kind for what was going on in the city other than if you physically went and sat in a city council meeting. So when I got on the city council in 2010, I started posting everything. Like every time I was came out of a council meeting, I posted, hey, this is what happened in the council meeting tonight.
Mayor, you've just finished a year as the board president of the Arkansas Municipal League, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You've also been on the board and their executive committee for a number of years. So what is something about local governance that you understand better now because you've been exposed to so many other communities in Arkansas as well, something that you wouldn't have known if you had just served as mayor or on council in Cave City on its own?
One thing is, despite the population, whether it's Little Rock or Fayetteville, obviously big population cities in Arkansas, or whether it's the smallest town, we're all kind of dealing with the same thing. We all have big issues with infrastructure that's outdated and needs repair, and nobody knows how to pay for it. And, we all have housing issues. They look different, but at the core, it's just their housing issues, right? It's affordable housing. That's what it is. So that's one thing that I've really learned is we're all actually tied together in a very similar way, more than you might imagine. If you look at the city of Little Rock and you look at Cave City, you think, oh, wow, they've got so many, different problems going on. And they do, obviously. But like I said, you get back to the core of it, it's really the same thing. And so there's a lot of cooperation and partnership in that. When you get all of us in a room together, you get me standing next to the mayor of Little Rock, you get the mayor of Fayetteville standing next to the mayor of, say, Sydney, that's got, 175 population. There's no difference. we're all talking about the same issues. We're all dealing with the same challenges. We're all looking for answers and relying on each other for some encouragement and some solutions. So that's the big takeaway from the Arkansas Municipal League. The other thing is you can't do this alone. No city can survive and thrive just on their own little island. And that's one thing that the Municipal League has really changed in Arkansas in the 90-year history of the organization. Is it is such a resource for information and programs and services and just honestly camaraderie and networking. We boast a lot about, and rightfully so, that every city in the state of Arkansas is a voluntary member of the Arkansas Municipal League in some form. They may not utilize all the services, but they may utilize one that's really important to them. So those are two big takeaways. We all deal with virtually the same problems, and we're all really, really connected, and we all do better when we're kind of all in this together mindset.
It sounds like there's a third one in there as well, which is some underlying optimism that local government can play a productive, effective role in making community better.
Oh yeah, I mean that's where it happens. I mean that's what we said at the very beginning, right? I mean, don't want to delve into too much national politics and even state politics, but when I talk to mayors and city council members, I hear a lot of the national conversation and the state conversations. Even unfortunately, it's bleeding into the states too. Are really just distracting so much progress. And so you got a lot of mayors and council members that are honestly, I think, just keeping their heads down and keeping things going in their cities. And like you said, that is where we're going to make communities better.
When we were preparing for this, Mayor, I asked you to reflect on an experience in your journey to leadership that deeply impacted you personally. And you talked to me about the fact that your grandparents had all passed.
Oh man, yeah, it's super important. How much time do you have? Like I said, between just I'm a sentimental sap anyway when it comes to family stuff, and then just the history and even genealogy of it. It's a big responsibility, like for instance, the grandparents that had the mercantile store. If I can talk about that for a minute. That's my mom's parents. And so she grew up herself in that store. They opened before she was born. They retired when she was a senior in high school and sold out. Unfortunately, my grandfather, her dad, passed away before I was born. He passed away young and kind of suddenly. And so I never got to meet him. But, he's been gone since the late 70s. And I still have people that, when they find out that I'm his grandson, they just go on and on and on about, such a good man and he loved his community. And, he was a deacon in our church and stuff like that. It's weighty for me. I mean, I think it is probably for most people, but for me, I feel like it's extra weighty, just because of the way I am. My grandmother, on my dad's side, she actually got to see me become mayor. She was the only grandparent that I had that got to see that.
She
and
must
I
have been
remember
incredibly proud.
she was, and she served as our librarian here in our little county branch library. She was very proud, but whenever I told her that I was going to run for mayor, I remember very vividly. She said, "Oh, honey," she said, "you don't want to do that." Or maybe she said, "Why would you want to do that?" She said, "People, I just, honest, people in town know. I've told this story all over the place." But, she said, "People are just going to complain and you can't make anybody happy and blah, 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 And so she was very protective of her grandson, but she also loved Cape City. And I think she knew that I was serious about it and that I wanted to do some really good stuff. And she had spent her life, really involved and invested in the community too. So once it was decided and once I was going to do it, she was my core cheerleader for sure, alongside my parents and wife and other family members. It's a big responsibility. I feel like these people that have spent decades of their own life, pouring into a place, and now they're gone. Somebody's got to come along behind and take it up, right? I was actually just talking about this with somebody at a baseball game. We were talking about all the good things going on in Cape City and how it seems like there's younger people. This person that happens to be my same generation, went to school with me and stuff, and we were talking about doing good things in the city. And I said, well, the point is, I'm here. My kids are here. My family's here. I don't plan on going anywhere. So why not? Like, I can't just go home at night and just sit on the couch and do nothing. I feel like I've got a responsibility, and it is tied back to my parents and grandparents. My mom being a longtime school teacher, my dad working in the water and sewer. So I feel like I've got a responsibility there. It's self-imposed more than anything, but I do feel it.
There's an attitude there of, we inherit the past, but in the present, we have a responsibility to propel it into the future, to make the future better.
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to do as mayor. I definitely didn't sign up for this because I had extra time on my hands, or quite frankly, I didn't need, career-wise, I didn't need it as a salary. I've been really blessed with an IT career that spanned almost 20 years now, way before I was involved in municipal government. So yeah, you're right. I didn't sign up for it just to basically collect my mayor salary and keep things going, which is great. There's something to be said for a good, solid, steady hand that just keeps things going, and make sure that the ship stays upright. But man, it's also neat when you can kind of just throw the throttles forward a little bit and get a little bit more enjoyable ride out of it.
Mayor, it's time for the lightning round questions. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You're going to answer them in one sentence or less.
I will try.
Mayor Jonas Anderson, describe your leadership style in 3 words.
Empowerment, responsibility, and integrity.
What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about the job of being mayor of Cave City, Arkansas?
It's much more involved than what I think people realize. Even though it's a small town, it never stops, 24/7, 365.
Mayor, what's the most impactful leadership advice you've ever received?
Kind of along the lines of the golden rule, honestly. Just treat people the way that you want to be treated. But in that sense, also treat your community the way that you would want someone else to treat it. If you take pride in it and you shepherd it and you really take it on personally, I think you'll be better for it, and your people and your place will be better for it.
What's a small change you'd like to see in local government that could make a big difference?
Maybe not so much a change as much as an avoidance. I really talk about this a lot, making sure that there's good in national and state politics, but there's also a lot of negative and distracting things. And so I hope that local government can avoid that to, as much as possible. I think that if you start letting that creep in, I think you're going to see local government take a real nosedive on how effective it can be.
Mayor, in a watermelon seed spitting contest, how far can you go?
I have never honestly tried that, if you can believe it. So I don't really know. I'm probably not that great at it. There are some people here that will blow your mind, though, on distance. I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a try this year and I'll report back to you. How about that?
Do you know what the world record is?
I do not, but I'm thinking you do.
I looked it up. I was curious. An incredible 75 feet 2 inches.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I highly doubt I'm touching that. I can't remember what the distance is here every year, but I'll try to find out, and I may take part and get back to you on that at the end of it.
I think the audience is going to want to know.
Okay, I'll report back.
Mayor, what's a lesson you've learned during your time as mayor of Cave City that you wish political leaders in Washington, D.C. would know and take to heart?
Focusing on the really important things that matter most to people every single day, their everyday lives. That's what we need to be about, not all of the other stuff that gets in the way.
Mayor, we live in divisive times. What gives you hope for the future?
Local government. That's what gives me hope for the future, especially with the Arkansas Municipal League. And I'm starting to get involved in the National League of Cities a little bit. And man, I see good stuff. I see good stuff in local municipal government. No matter what's going on at the other levels, there's just really, really good, honest people just trudging away, keeping our nose to the grindstone, trying to help people out as best we can. So I think as long as we keep that focus, as long as local government leaders will stay the course and keep that focus and not get distracted by everything else, I think we'll be okay.
Mayor Jonas Anderson, thank you for sharing your experiences, and thanks for being open to this conversation. And good luck. You've got now a few weeks to prepare for the Watermelon Festival, so I expect you'll be out in your backyard practicing your seed spitting. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you so much, and I will work on that. Once again, my thanks to Mayor Jonas Anderson of Cave City, Arkansas. And let me say thank you again to the Arkansas Municipal League for inviting me to address their 90th annual conference. And thank you especially to the League's members for welcoming me so enthusiastically. It was a real honor. This episode was produced by Kerry Lengel and edited by Nick Living the Dream Tantillo. Jenna Maisel is our production assistant. Our executive producer is John Little. I'm Matt Lehrman of Social Prosperity Partners. Ask me a question, share a comment, or let me know that you have a story to share. You can reach me at 602-688-2724 or Matt, M-A-T-T, at socialprosperity.us. I'd love to hear from you. We'll be back soon with another Community Catalyst.